More than 10 political parties will be holding their party primaries. Already, controversy over joint nominations is threatening to split some of the coalitions. This, however, is just the tip of the iceberg. Experts are predicting major fallouts in the primaries owing to the glaring loopholes in the political parties' dispute resolution plans at the nomination stage. Tonight on Newsline, we are focusing on the upcoming party primaries. And to start us off, Asha Mwilu gives us an overview to set the stage.
Within the next 10 days, political parties will be holding their party primaries, a crucial process that will determine which candidates end up on the ballot paper come March 4th. However, controversy already looms on how and when political parties are planning to hold their countrywide nominations. The party primaries have always witnessed ugly scenes, arguments and fallouts because in some cases winning the party primaries is as good as bagging the seat. This fact continues to resonate in the minds of many Kenyans and now forms the basis of the arguments surrounding the new strategy by political parties on the upcoming party nominations. After Parliament passed an amendment pushing the party hopping deadline to the 18th of January, political parties conveniently moved their nomination dates to the 17th, just a day before the deadline.
After the elections are concluded, we shall have 4 days set aside to sort out any disputes regarding to the nomination of URP.
But with the IEBC deadline on the 18th of January, there won't be any time for the said dispute resolution. If parties hold their countrywide nominations on the 17th, then any aggrieved aspirants will be effectively blocked from hopping to another party. What's more, any attempt at dispute resolution could prove futile due to the time constraints created by these political parties.
If you go and say that if there's a dispute, you will go and resolve it under the provisions of the Arbitration Act, that Act says you give 14 days notice. Where the 14 days notice, if your nominations are on the 17th, the close of nominations on the 18th, and 10 days later you're supposed to put in your papers.
It's for this reason that smaller affiliate parties in the main coalitions are now crying foul over plans to have joint party nominations.
We feel that we are being shortchanged, we have been manipulated, we are being misused as political parties.
This should not be a dictatorship, partnership. People cannot come and dictate to us.
Mahali tulikuwa hata tujaribu kuongea na sisi, wajaribu kuongea na sisi ni zile sehemu complicated kama cities. Nairobi, Mombasa na Nakuru. Hizo tunaweza ongea.
Already, holes have been poked on the kind of dispute resolution mechanisms formulated by some political parties. Although a national tribunal is in place to hear any party disputes that may arise, a massive flow of complaints from across the country, which is highly likely in the upcoming primaries, could paralyze this tribunal's capabilities. The only option now, experts say, is for political parties to get their houses in order and ensure that democracy prevails during their primaries to avert scenes like this witnessed in previous election years.
Members of political parties have to be educated to a level where they can examine their constitutions, put themselves in those situations and go back to the party hierarchy and say, this will not work for me if I have a dispute.
Further to the party primaries, the 29th and 30th of January will see presidential hopefuls officially hand in their nomination papers to the IEBC. Those seeking positions of governors, MPs, senators and women representatives will equally present their nomination papers on January 31st and February 1st. Asha Mwilu, KTN Newsline.
So there's a clock ticking. This clock is ticking, but which side of this clock are you? You have responsibility as a voter, but there are expectations. I want to start with Peter Simani, who has already given us a word. And Peter, I just want you to sort of tell us, what is your chief concern in the position you hold as chair of a tribunal that is supposed to be dealing with this kind of disputes?
I think the chief concern now, given the mandate that the tribunal has, is time. Time is our biggest concern, and time for disputes, once they have gone through the internal party mechanisms, for the aggrieved parties to take advantage of the due process that is provided to them in law. That is our main concern at the moment. In fact, our biggest concern.
And you also have concerns. You've raised your voice to speak about certain areas you find you're not comfortable with. So as human rights advocates, what is the problem you see?
As far as human rights advocates are concerned, the biggest problem we're seeing is a lack of internal democracy within these parties themselves, a lack of the Kenyan citizen actually knowing more than just what meets the eye and having a clear understanding of the party politics. Of course, the role of minorities, which include women and also vulnerable groups, where will they be and what participation will they have as far as the elections are concerned? For us, those are some of the key concerns.
Peter, I know I said something about the clock, but to you, what is the dire consequence of disregarding this clock we're talking about towards the dead set for the elections?
I think what worries us is the potential for violence. You see, this primary or nomination process, whatever you may want to call it, for a lot of people is the make or break to the run-up to the elections. You don't make it in the nominations, that's it. Now, if that disenfranchised person or prospective politician cannot take advantage of the mechanisms that have been put in place both by his party and by the law to get a resolution and to get his voice heard or his complaint heard, you have a disenfranchised and an angry person. Now multiply that with all the disenfranchised people in the different political parties. My question is that what are you looking at? Are you looking at angry politicians whose political futures are gone? That is a very big concern which must be taken into account, because what we have now is that the political parties have all moved their nomination or primary processes to the wire, which gives extremely little time for anybody, including they themselves, to resolve any disputes that may arise. Even the most simple disputes like I was rigged in, or wrong papers, or no time. You have between 17th, 6 o'clock 17th is probably when they will finish their nomination processes. Now, from 6 o'clock 17th, the last time you can do nominations is 18th, the next day. Now, the law provides that when you have a dispute, you first of all must go within the party and exhaust the party mechanisms.
In-house.
In-house. You have only 10 days before the IEBC receives those nomination papers. Some of the clauses in some of these constitutions will not work in that period. Now, I'll give you an example. There is a political party which says that if you have a dispute, then you must go to the National Executive Council. Now, how is the lady in the village who is vying going to put together a National Executive Council in 10 days to be heard?
All right, Peter. And who's going to be knocking at your door on the 18th?
We are expecting, of course, those who feel that their rights have been violated. They're going to be knocking on our doors. We are expecting that there shall be a lot of violence. There shall be a lot of, the women candidates are going to suffer. And we expect that there will be quite a number of them who are going to come forward expressing their discontent and wanting to have a remedy to the situation that they're in. So we can see that, and also the youth and other vulnerable groups, we expect them to come walking in and they will be seeking redress. They will feel that justice has not been met and that they have suffered as a result of a process which, well, in the first place, they didn't even know much about it. They were not even aware, well educated and aware of what was the process. They just knew that there's a nomination process, they must participate, but they do not know the game. And no one has taken the time to tell them how to go about it so that they can have an in-depth understanding.
The short end of it for you, and even if we're saying they can come for redress,
yes,
is it actually possible?
Regrettably, the problem is the timing. Timing is going to actually be a crucial factor, because on the 18th on the 18th, that's when they should do what they need to do within 10 days. And if they do not know where to go, how to get it, who will assist them, and if at all there's further financial input required from these potential candidates, that will be a challenge to them.
Okay, Peter and Anne are very polite in terms of what might not happen. And before the politicians, as eager as they are to talk about what they do, Joe, we have concerns, and we are part of the people who are supposed to be looking at it in terms of what is a policy, what can be done, what can't be done. What concerns are we raising as the media?
Well, I think it's a bigger question, Lou. If you look at the way political parties are structured at the moment, I mean, there's a problem. Even if everything were to go according to plan, how do you even know that these people are genuinely members of a certain party? I mean, we've had people say, okay, you can have a card that, you know, means then you're a member, but I can buy 10 different cards of 10 different parties and quite literally vote from TNA to ODM to Quad Jubilee, whatever it is, because there's really no independent way away from the political parties of determining who is a member of a political party. So that discipline within the parties, the organization, the capacity of the parties themselves, I mean, what they're trying to do is almost like a general election. How many months does the IEBC have to prepare for an election like the one we'll have in March? How much time do these parties have? How much money do they have? Probably some of them have a lot of it. But the logistical and organizational capacity to be able to undertake such a national exercise, which has grave implications, I'm not too sure about that capacity, Louis.
Well, I've got Agustino Neto, who's already Member of Parliament in Dewa. Mheshimiwa, what does this portend for you?
I think let's give credit where it's due. One is that Kenya is growing, and Kenya is a growing democracy. Within the confines of the law, I'm happy right now we can sit with the chair of a tribunal that is going to look at the fallout during primaries. This wasn't there in 2007, so that means in terms of Kenya growing democracy, we're already making strides. The other thing which I'm so happy about, I'm not so sure where the concern about the timelines is coming in, because at least you have a 10-day window within which to resolve potential differences. And if you look at his mandate within the Act, his mandate, whatever decisions he makes, are of a consequence or of a strength of a magistrate's court, which are only appealable at the High Court. You understand? So it's like he's a quasi-court in itself. So in terms of helping Kenya grow the democracy, I really think we're making strides. It is not possible to reach there in a short while. And I think where we are right now is slightly better than 2007. And I think with a bit of progression, I think we're in the right track.
So, Neto, you're telling me that Peter shouldn't worry. There'll be time for him to sort you guys out when you start wrangling. Hang on. You want to be a senator.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go through this process also.
Yeah.
What does this mean to you?
Basically, I think my personal comment, and I made it even the time they were proposing that amendment, is that we have a group of members of parliament who are extremely ignorant of what's happening in the country, who are extremely selfish.
Don't look at me, look at that side. There's a member of parliament.
Well,
where would you place Neto?
my learned friend Neto, I don't know which side he was when the discussion was going on.
Yeah.
But I think it is, you remember, I mean, in the first instance, we had 6 months to prepare for elections. They amended, we came to about 3 months. They moved us to a period of about, you have only from 4th to 18th to hope from one part to another. Actually, the real problem here is because they were trying to rescue the problem of hoping, but also protect the current members of parliament who are actually cabinet ministers. Because if they had resigned earlier, they would have, perhaps, one side of the coalition would not have cabinet ministers for a long period. And that selfish act actually has driven us to a situation where I can tell you for sure, I mean, to have primaries on 17 and the last day for presenting papers to ABC being 18, it will really be chaotic.
The other problem, yeah. Scared?
Well,
in terms of policy, not in terms of standing up to be a senator.
Yeah.
Looking at what you have to deal with,
as a citizen of this country, I'm very scared, not as an individual, maybe because I'm a fairly good position in the nomination processes in terms of competitors.
Here we go. But you're shaking your head.
A couple of reasons, yeah.
On a serious note, let me complete that. Is that I am scared as a citizen of this country.
Exactly.
Because if you look at the situation, how can you expect 5 political parties to have nomination the same day? In a situation where no clear register for members of political parties. Most of the political parties are going to carry out nomination using IEBC register and IDs, an individual ID. That means someone will pass through ODM elections as he is on his way to a URP elections.
Exactly what you are saying.
And crossing over to complete UDF elections. Yes. And I think it's unfortunate that act of combination of ignorance and selfishness has taken us to this.
Neto, as you respond, but tell me from the onset, is this a good process? Then answer me. If it isn't, tell me.
A couple of things. Louis,
you haven't answered me.
What is a good process?
The process we are now expecting to happen, as we've described it, as the people concerned have told you, this is the window you're giving yourselves. You've taken this thing to the brink. In one word, is this good or bad?
Louis, we're talking about two different things. Before I answer whether it's good or bad, because with the due respect to my learned colleague here, the fact that he's talking about an 18th day deadline, I do not understand what he means with that, because my understanding is that IEBC expects the presentation of nomination papers on the 31st and the 1st. You understand? Two different things. That gives the committee 2 weeks within which to either resolve party disputes before then you can present your nomination papers. It does not mean that on the 17th the nominations are conducted and you present the papers on the 18th. Two different things.
That's very easy to resolve.
Yeah.
Kipchumba, is that what you said?
Yeah, well, that is true.
So Neto has given us a correct position.
Well, unless they put across another amendment.
No, I mean,
we never know.
Yeah,
which
is possible.
No, the thing is this.
Okay, hold on, gentlemen. let me go back to Peter. Already, I have a dispute here.
Yeah.
So I'm coming to you. You're the chair of the Tribunal for Disputes. Now, already, we can't even agree what date is significant for what action. Help us.
Well, my understanding is that the 18th is the last day on which parties can carry out their nominations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
And thereafter, whoever has been nominated is expected to present their papers. Presidential, I think, is 29th. And governors, senators, and so forth, 31st and the 1st to the IEBC.
This is assuming that things go swimmingly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the IEBC is a vehicle, it's a ship that's left port. It is not stopping.
Right.
It has extremely tight timelines. Mark you, from the 1st of February, they have got barely 4 weeks to print over 120 million ballot boxes, check them, ship them in.
They're not stopping for nothing.
That's not stopping for these party squabbles. So if the parties continue to squabble, they may find themselves disenfranchised, because the alternative is that you delay the printing of these papers, you don't have elections on the 3rd of March.
We can't even think of that. And I saw you reacting to what the two gentlemen were saying. And before they continue telling me about how the dates would work for them, you tell me if they're actually giving us the right message in terms of these dates and the expectations.
Well, yes, I do agree with the dates that we've been given. They are the dates that are there. But in terms of how practical it will be,
that's the thing.
It's the biggest challenge. The practicability, and then and in terms of the human resource, financial it's quite humongous. So for me, it's possible, but there's a challenge.
Louis,
there's a challenge.
Dispute resolution is not a simple thing.
Yes.
It is not something you wake up and you talk like greeting somebody in the morning and everything is hunky-dory.
Right.
It is a complex process. Some of the political parties have not one method, but a series. For instance, they'll say if you have a problem, you go to panel 1. If you're dissatisfied with panel 1, go to panel 2, panel 3, panel 4. That's their system. Others say if you have a dispute, give 14 days notice before your dispute can be heard. Now you have 10 days. How is that going to work? And I'd like the politician to explain to me when he says, oh, you have the tribunal. You cannot come to the tribunal until you have exhausted that method. Now, if you cannot exhaust it in 10 days, the tribunal is not available to you. So you cannot blame the tribunal. We cannot, our jurisdiction cannot kick in unless you have exhausted your internal process. Now, if I have my dispute today, and the panel says, okay, it's the 18th, we've heard you have a dispute, come back, we'll hear you on the 28th.
You're cooked.
That's it.
And you had concerns about educating even the voter.
Yes.
Not enough has been said. Can we remedy that now? It's too late.
Well, no. I don't want to say it's too late. I still believe it is possible for some level of voter education, which is intensive, aggressive, but what it will be very expensive. It will be more on television, radio, using various media ways of communicating because of the time frames.
What is the biggest caution you'd give the voter now?
The biggest caution I'd give the voter now is that Kenyans need to know more about political parties. Those who they need to know how they operate, how the people get nominated, because they do not know. And I think for me, the onus of that education lies first with the political parties and secondly with the IEBC and of course with the government. Yes, civil societies and organizations like ourselves, Kenya National Commission, have a role to play. But at this point, the kind of scale with which it can be done, I think there are only 2 or 3 players who can do it at that level.
Joe, if what we are seeing being organized is a sham, we need to call it. We need to call it what it is.
I really think it is, Louis, and I'm not even sure that the political parties themselves recognize the kind of mess we are in, quite frankly. Like Anne was mentioning, I mean, think about it. Right now we have what we like to call the discord in code, for instance, where you have all these smaller parties saying, well, we don't want to be part of that. So
yeah,
assuming they reach an agreement and say, fine, you go your way. So be saying, okay, for the president who support code, for this one who support Chamacha, this and the other thing, you have like 20 different parties doing all manner of things within the next 7 weeks. That is the time we have before the election. Quite frankly, I mean, we had people in Turkana the other day, for instance, who were doing something there, we were calling Quote My Vote, when the registration was going on. I mean, on the eve of that deadline, there are people who are telling us, oh yeah, we think this thing is going on until March 4th. That's what they thought, that the voter registration was going on until election day. And you're going there to tell people about code and Chamacha, this and that, or Jubilee and TNA. I mean, it is absolutely unimaginable that they would comprehend what's going on in the political parties. So this confusion that is going down to the wire, because we are talking about 17th, the deadline is 18th, by which they needed to have, but they've pushed it, and some of them have been admitting that, well, you know, if we have time, we are going to use it, and also we want to make sure nobody jumps from this party to the other. So the reasons are really not quite convincing, but the mess we are getting into as a country is humongous.
A couple of things.
Okay, clearly, right.
Yeah,
Kipchumba, go first.
And that's exactly, I don't think we now have any dispute between us in terms of time. It's the same thing I'm talking about. If 18th is the last day to do nomination, what happens if you are transporting papers to Turkana or some other place? Some of the parties have no power perhaps to hire choppers and drop papers all over. And suppose there is logistical challenge, it rains, for example, that day, and you're not able to reach a particular polling station. So you have 2 days. If you wanted even to do a repeat, suppose there is need to order in the tribunal for some kind of renomination again, repeat
you haven't even exhausted.
Yeah, okay, not even the tribunal, internal mechanisms. Suppose the internal mechanism were going to order a repeat of the nomination, there will be no time. And so it's not just a question of solving the disputes that are related to who has won and who has lost, but actually preparing a process that can give people ample time to engage. And if we did it on 7th, for example, which was the initial plan for many political parties, then we had enough time to repeat and so forth. And if it was possible, I don't know about standing orders of parliament and so forth, if it was possible, that parliamentarians they should have put a clause there that says once you go through a nomination process of one party, you don't jump there.
It's done.
They have some few days to do something. I don't know.
They've been walking with nomination papers in their pockets. I'm told that some people, like, I mean, if you're going into a court nomination and you're not sure that you get it, maybe you get another ticket, tip or something, and keep it in your pocket.
Absolutely, that's the problem.
You don't get this.
Neto, tell me why I should not declare that you're running a sham in this country.
A couple of things. First, I let it before the record that I did not support the mutilation of the Political Parties Act and the Elections Act. I did not. I mean, I stood firm to say that whatever it's going to cost the country, let us stick with the timelines that were given in the both laws, both Political Parties and Elections Act. I mean, I'm on the record for saying that. Of course. But the other thing, where we are right now is that, one, if you look at where Kenya is coming from, 2007 nominations and 2013 primaries, at least there's some growth Growth in terms of one, there has been this new office, the Political Parties Tribunal office. This is progression. I think it's progression in the right way. But two, the reason why, for example, Parliament did extend these various timelines was not just for selfish reasons, like my colleague Kipchumba will say. I did, however, oppose the extension, but there were reasons, fairly good reasons. One, for some strange reason, leaders of government business did not prioritize bills that were key in terms of helping devolution. So if at all, for example, Parliament did end on the 4th, key bills that are coming in, like tomorrow, the transitional bill, the budgetary process of the devolved governments.
So you're saying you meant well?
No, I mean...
you're saying there's some good reasons?
There were reasons.
Think about it, Neto. I'm not convinced. And we need to know that you guys mean well for us in terms of, can this thing work?